I'm Jakarta Matera, reporting from London. We'll be bringing you news reports from the United Kingdom and Europe. And we have live reporters on standby, ready to give their reports. With us today, on today's lineup, we have with us Love and Season, who will be reporting live on the cinema premiere for Tenet, the first blockbuster released since the pandemic. Then we go to Ashley Espiritu, who will be reporting live on how locals are enjoying a calmer London since the pandemic. Then we have a report from EBC Spain by Beverly Madrid on a meet and greet of the Iglesia de Cristo youth members in Spain and in Latin America. Back to the UK, we will be taking a tour of the Natural History Museum in London, a report by Belle Celestino. In Belgium, the Iglesia de Cristo holds an online acoustic night in Belgium, France, Monaco, and Switzerland. This report will be given by Maria Tausin. In Germany, Dortmund in particular, they have a DIY donut wall report. This is by Irene Juliette Arzadon. And our last report of today's show will be EBC Sports Update on Lionel Messi's request to leave FC Barcelona. And of course, we'll end today's show, as always, with our view from a window, which gives us a scenic view from one of our beautiful European cities. But first, the news headlines from the UK and Europe. UK Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, on Wednesday sought to reassure pupils about the risk of going back to school after a policy reversal on masks sparked fresh questions about the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. The government backtracked on its insistence that students in England should not have to wear coverings on their nose and mouth when they return to class next week, amid concerns about a rise in new infections. The change is being seen as another policy U-turn, just weeks after ministers were forced to scrap the use of an algorithm which gave 17 and 18-year-olds lower than expected exam grades. On a visit to a school in central London, Johnson thanked students for enduring months at home because of the outbreak, which had helped the country get back from the disease under control. The risk to your health is not now from COVID, because after all, statistically speaking, your chances of suffering from that disease are very, very low, he said. The greatest risk you face now is of continuing to be out of school. The new guidance advises secondary school students aged 11 to 18 and staff to wear face coverings in corridors and communal areas, and in places with local coronavirus restrictions. Teachers' Union have called for the UK government, which is responsible for education in England, to follow Scotland, which has a separate education system and already requires pupils to cover up between lessons. But while welcoming the change, critics, including the main opposition Labour Party, said ministers had shirked their responsibility by leaving enforcement to individual schools. Labour's education spokeswoman, Kate Green, slammed a half-baked U-turn and said clearer guidance should have been given earlier.
And it is fantastic to see pupils coming back, see our kids coming back to school, and we want to see every single one coming back next week and in the succeeding days. So what we're doing, following what the WHO have said, is we're saying if you're in a hotspot area where there is a higher risk of transmission, then face coverings in those types of areas outside the classroom, but not in the classroom, because that's clearly nonsensical. You can't teach with face coverings, and you can't expect people to learn with face coverings. And I think what we want to see is a full, thorough, transparent investigation into the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. And those who are responsible must be held to account and must be brought to justice.
UK London's Tower Bridge is struck down. London's iconic Tower Bridge suffered technical issues when it was raised to let a ship through and was unable to close. The traffic around the area became deadlocked after the bridge was closed to vehicles for several hours during the afternoon and evening. The bridge experienced technical issues this afternoon and was locked in a raised position for a period of time, the Tower Bridge said on its Twitter feed. Built between 1886 and 1894, the bridge lifts around 800 times a year, and on Saturday was scheduled to be raised for the historic charter boat sailing barge Will. Police announced its closure around 5 p.m. and it reopened to pedestrians more than an hour later, but remained shut to vehicles for several hours. We go to France now, where the French government has placed 19 new districts in the red zone, in addition to Paris, says the Prime Minister. In total, there are 21 districts now in the red zone, which means active circulation of the virus.
En conséquence, la décision d'inscrire 19 nouveaux départements, vous les voyez sur la carte, en rouge, c'est-à-dire ce qu'on appelle en zone de circulation active du virus. Ça porte donc au total le nombre des départements concernés à 21, puisque Paris et les Bouches-du-Rhône y figuraient déjà. Un certain nombre de départements ont dépassé le...
In Finland now, where a Finnish town offers prizes to turn its residents green. Inhabitants in a town in Finland can now earn rewards, including a bus ticket or free food, if they cut down on their car use under a scheme to lure the public into lower carbon lifestyles. The EU-funded CityCap project allows individuals in the town of Lahti to track their carbon emissions as they move around, using an app that detects whether they are in a car, on public transport, walking, or cycling. Anyone who uses up less than their allocated carbon allowance each week earns virtual euros, tradable for benefits such as swimming lessons or bus tickets, as well as free bike lights or a slice of cake and coffee at a cafe. The city is very car dependent, and its goal now is that by 2030, more than 50% of all trips are made by sustainable transport modes, the project manager, Anne Hutterton, told AFP. The current figures stand at 44%, yet the project's wider aim is to develop a new method for encouraging greener behavior using a personal carbon trading system that other cities can copy. CityCap has gained a lot of interest all over the world, not only in Europe, but also in the US and Canada. The concept is modeled on the EU's carbon trading scheme, under which companies and governments are allocated carbon credits and must pay to pollute more than this amount, or they could sell off any surplus if they emit less. The CityCap app gives each participant a weekly carbon budget based on their personal circumstances. The average person in this town of 120,000 inhabitants taking a train hour ride north to the capital Helsinki emits around 21 kilos or 46 pounds of CO2 equivalent in a week. The project's head of research said that the app challenges users to reduce this by a quarter, meaning on average replacing 20 kilometers or 12 miles of driving with public transport or cycling. Researchers also hope to learn whether larger rewards will encourage more citizens away from their cars. It's possible to earn €2 if your mobility emissions are really low. But this autumn, we intend to increase the price tenfold.
Lahti is still a very car-dependent city, and our strategic goal is that by 2030, more than 50% of all trips are made by sustainable transport modes. And we still have a bit of way to go, and that's what we are also trying to change with our CityCap project. And based on that, you will get a personal budget that will be renewed weekly. And then when you travel around, you have your location on and your app is in your pocket. It will automatically detect your mobility, and it will know automatically if you're taking the bus or if you are taking the car, and then it will calculate the CO2 that you are producing. And then afterwards, you can use the euros that you have collected on the virtual marketplace of the application, where you can exchange them to bus tickets or maybe bicycle lights or some other discounts on services in the city. For instance, coffee and cake or things like that.
If you drive alone with an average passenger car, you are emitting 1 kilo of CO2 for every 5 kilometers of driving. So basically, if you want to reduce 3 kilos of CO2, you have to avoid driving 15 kilometers, or you have to use public transport or bicycle instead.
For instance, now I went for a hiking weekend, and we did maybe 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers hiking, but I had to travel 100 kilometers by car. So after that, I checked out the app and I was like, was that a good thing? Maybe for me, but not for the environment.
It's time for a break now, but please come back for more E&I UK and Europe edition.
Do you want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@meu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@meu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
Welcome back to E&I UK and Europe edition. Now we have more interesting stories from around the United Kingdom this week. First up, we have Love and Season reporting on the cinema premiere of Tenet, the first blockbuster released since the pandemic. Hello, Love Anne.
Hi, Giancarlo, and thank you. So, London movie theaters released Christopher Nolan's new film, Tenet, on Wednesday, hoping it will entice audiences back to the cinema after months of closure due to the coronavirus outbreak. After several postponements, the film, which ran into a $200 million budget, is now the first of its kind to dare a release during the pandemic. Tenet, a clever blockbuster that slips between espionage and science fiction, is being billed as the film of the summer that operators hope will reboot beleaguered industry. A smattering of film buffs turned out for an early showing in London's Leicester Square. So here are some of their reactions.
I love cinema altogether. I just live for cinema. I think it's a wonderful form of entertainment. Always have loved cinema. And I realised this was a brand new film. I think it's got a relatively good write-up about it. And as I say, I don't know very much about it, but I realised it was on today, so I thought, come on, let's go and have a look at it, see what it's all about. I'm hoping that the cinema really will have a boost and get back to some sort of normality, because I know there are blockbusters that have been made and have not been seen yet and not been shown as a result of the pandemic. So fingers crossed it all does come back to some kind of normality.
I like to go in cinemas, so that's why I do in my day off especially. So yeah, I've been like maybe 2 weeks ago, I still see they're still closed. But no, it's like many movies coming up at the same time, no, so I'd like to see.
So it's a Wednesday afternoon at 12 o'clock. We've got 61 people who've just gone into the screening that's about to begin. So that's really great. And the ticket sales for later on are looking really strong. For our stalls area tonight, that's actually sold out for this evening. So that's really positive. And bookings for the weekend are looking really great. And across the country, at our cinemas, we've put extra shows on sale because demand's been really strong. This is obviously, a real kind of, a test for everybody to see, how busy a film is. I think what will probably happen is that because we don't have as many seats to sell as we would normally do, this film will perhaps be in cinema longer than sometimes films would have been. Although Christopher Nolan films have a tendency for people to return to watch them again because they want to kind of figure them out or because they're so good. So that would be really positive anyway. But I think it's definitely, the first of many.
So Hollywood megastar Tom Cruise, who is filming near London, tweeted a video of his trip to the cinema on Tuesday to see the film, adding the caption, "Big movie, big screen, loved it." Over to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Lovan. So how is the British film industry reacting towards the release of Tenet during this pandemic?
Well, since the government gave the green light to open the cinemas last month, the public is not really showing much interest to go to the movie theaters. Last week, the box office in the UK and Ireland had brought in £800,000 or $1.6 million in revenue for the top 10 movies. That is not very small compared to the 24 million it averaged per week last year. So Giancarlo, you can tell that the British film industry is so eager to see how the release of Tenet would turn out. And this is according to Kalkine Media News. Now also, Warner Bros. Have faith in Christopher Nolan's ability to pull in the crowds, and with good reason. Basically, his rebooting of the Batman films in the shape of the Dark Knight trilogy has grossed more than $4 billion. His last film, Dunkirk, which won 3 Oscars, had 5 other nominations, including one for Nolan himself, cost $100 million and has grossed for over $256 million. Tenet was released in more than 70 countries, including Australia, Canada, most of Europe, South Korea, and the US release is planned for September 3 and hopes to capitalize on the important Labor Day weekend. Giancarlo?
Thank you, Lovan. But are there any major blockbusters that had been scheduled for release but could not have been done because of the pandemic?
Yes, there actually were, and according to Kalkine Media News, Giancarlo, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the blockbuster chart of the movies that could not be released is topped by Top Gun 2, Maverick, with Tom Cruise, and it's now scheduled for 2021. Other than that, the next installment of James Bond sequel, No Time to Die, which was scheduled to be released earlier this year, has now been postponed to the end of the year. Some other major movies whose release has been pushed back are Fatima, which is now expected to be released on August 28. Mulan is scheduled for its streaming release on 4th of September this year, and its theatrical September is also there's also another major release from DC Comics superhero stable Wonder Woman 1984, which was placed for a 5th of June 2020 release, has now been rescheduled for October 2, 2020. Giancarlo?
Thank you, Lovan, for your report.
Thank you, Giancarlo, for having me reporting from London, United Kingdom. I am Lovan, a Villanosa season, and we live in interesting times.
Now we stay in the United Kingdom with a live report from Ashley Espiritu on how locals are enjoying a now calmer London. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, Giancarlo. Thank you. Getting close to the animated T-Rex at London's Natural History Museum normally requires long queues and sharp elbows, but today only a handful of children shriek in delight as it roars. With tourists staying away and visitor numbers limited due to coronavirus, the popular exhibit is unrecognizably quiet, as are many of the British capital's museums and galleries. It is tough for the institution's finances, but the lack of crowds is a boon for the few foreign visitors and for locals who are taking the opportunity to explore their own backyard. Lindsay Wilden, 39, from Dunstable, north of London, headed straight to the dinosaurs when she visited the Natural History Museum with her children on a hot August day. She said, "We got in straight away and it was only us and maybe 6 or 7 families. We got to see things and it has been great." Still worried about catching coronavirus, she was reassured by the decision to let in just 20% of normal visitors. "We probably wouldn't have come if it wasn't this quiet," she told AFP. Foreign visitors usually make up 70% of entrance to the Natural History Museum, but this has fallen to just 3% since it reopened in August 5, and 57% were Londoners. For those tourists who do run the gauntlet of Britain's rapidly changing quarantine rules, the calm in the city is also refreshing. "There isn't the crush, there are no queues. For us tourists, it's paradise," said Frenchman Michael Beth, visiting with his family. Britain has been badly hit by coronavirus, with more than 41,000 people dead, and despite the easing of lockdown, many people are still nervous about venturing out. As they slowly reopen, London's tourist sites, museums and galleries have made great efforts to show that they are safe. Visitors must pre-book time tickets. Some galleries have introduced one-way systems. Sanitizing gel is on hand and face masks are required by law. Some exhibits are considered too risky, are shut from video installations in small rooms to interactive displays. But in return, a visitor can roam around alone in the V-Maze Cast Court or linger in front of victims at the National Gallery without being jostled. Thank you, Giancarlo.
Thank you, Ashley, for telling us about these London sites. But can you also tell us about the atmosphere around the streets of London? How are they?
Yes, Giancarlo. One Londoner, Jane Barnett, said, "It's brilliant. You can see things without loads of people barging around," during her visit at the Tate Modern Gallery of Contemporary Art. Yet, as they looked around the Millennium Bridge, the usual crowds thinned to barely a dozen people. Assistant Katie Clark said it was a bit too quiet. "Walking down the South Bank, there's no buzz, and it's not London," said the 55-year-old who was visiting from out of town. At the National Gallery in the near-deserted cafe overlooking a desolated Trafalgar Square, 63-year-old Londoner Gavin Green said the lack of people was a bit weird. They could probably relax things a bit and allow more people in, his wife Catherine added. Giancarlo?
Yeah, that really sounds different from the London that we used to know. But has this visitors being less affected the businesses in some way?
Yes, like others roaming London museums this summer, the Greens are aware that they are hard hit by lockdown and desperately need visitors to survive. The Tate Galleries are planning to add 300 jobs in their shops and cafes after Director Maria Bulshaw has said she expected only half as many visitors for the foreseeable future. And historical royal palaces, which operate sites including the Tower of London and Hampton Court, has introduced a voluntary redundancy scheme, including the Tower's famous beef eaters. Most museums and galleries offer free entry for the permanent displays, but they encourage donations when booking a ticket, and the V&A has contactless payment points around their sites. Marshalling her children towards another exhibit, Wilden urged her fellow Britons to support their cultural institutions. Giancarlo?
Okay, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us and giving that interesting report.
Thank you, Giancarlo. From the United Kingdom, I'm Ashley Espiritu, and we live in interesting times.
It's time for another break now, but please come back for more E&I UK and Europe edition.
Letters and Music, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
Welcome back to E&I UK and Europe edition. Now for more interesting stories in the UK and Europe. We go to our EBC Spain correspondent, Beverly Madrid, who reports on a meet and greet of the Iglesia de Cristo youth members from Spain and Latin America. Let's watch her report.
The Iglesia de Cristo young members from Spain and Latin America recently closed the gap of physical distancing by holding a meet and greet activity through video conference.
Due to the unprecedented period of social distancing, the Church of Christ young leaders from Spain organized a virtual event with the young leaders of Latin America countries such as Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Guatemala, Chile, and Panama.
A pesar de los obstáculos como la distancia o la pandemia, mediante la conexión online pudimos ver a nuestros hermanos en el otro lado del mundo y también pudimos ver las actividades que realizaron, que realmente nos inspiran a ser fuertes emocionalmente y espiritualmente.
Me encantó conocer a todos los hermanos, todos los cadiwas del distrito de España y de Latinoamérica. La verdad es que todos son muy simpáticos, muy enérgicos y transmiten mucho positivismo. Estoy muy contenta de poderles haber conocido.
Me sentí tan feliz y tan contenta de poder conocer a nuestros hermanos del distrito de Latinoamérica. Un placer y un gusto de conocerles, hermanos, y también he podido conocer más hermanos de nuestro distrito de España.
Que realmente estuve esperando ese día y cuando finalmente llegó yo estaba súper feliz de participar y poder estar en una actividad como esta.
The organizers prepared virtual games and icebreakers because it's an essential way to create a fun and friendly virtual space for everyone to connect and get to know each other better.
Ha sido muy entretenido, muy divertido, hemos compartido muchas risas y aparte las actividades han sido muy dinámicas y aparte me he divertido mucho porque en la actividad pudimos interactuar entre todos. Hemos podido recibir risas, hemos podido conocernos el uno al otro, o sea, como hermano y hermana, y lo hemos pasado en grande.
Por primera vez en la historia de nuestros distritos, aunque estemos pasando en una época donde la pandemia aún no ha cedido, será una actividad llena de energía y con mucha felicidad.
Primero que todo, eran muchísimos, ¿no? Entonces era así como una emoción de que puedo hacer muchos amigos, puedo conocer a muchos hermanos. Entonces fue una experiencia muy bonita y muy alegre el conocer a los hermanos de España y también hermanos de Latinoamérica que ni siquiera conocía y pude haber conocido y tener el honor de hablar con ellos, invitarlos a la actividad. Entonces no solamente de España, sino que igualmente de Latinoamérica.
The purpose of this meet and greet activity was to strengthen the existing friendship and foster the love of brotherhood amongst the young brethren from the districts of Spain and Latin America. This also aimed for the INC youth members to make new friends and their significant other and be united in giving glory to our Lord God.
El propósito de esta actividad era ayudarnos a conocernos mejor entre los hermanos, hacer nuevas amistades y, si es posible, encontrar a la personita especial que tanto estamos buscando.
Una de las cosas que pude sacar de esta actividad fue que los hermanos tenemos una muy buena relación, a pesar de no conocernos. Todo siempre fue muy alegre, los juegos, los hermanos participaban y se divertían y creo que todo eso llevó a que fuera una experiencia muy bonita.
Y bueno, si me gustaría que hubiera otro meet and greet, por supuesto. Es una buena manera también de conectarse y también, al menos, por ejemplo, aunque no podamos vernos en persona, al menos mediante este tipo de tecnología, ¿no? Como el Webex, pues podemos conocer a más personas. Y esperemos que esto se vuelva a repetir pronto.
Me gustaría poder hacer un meet and greet de nuevo con otros distritos para poder conocer a más cadiguas que estén, digamos, fuera del distrito de España y conocerlos más a fondo.
Y me gustaría volver a poder experimentar dicha actividad.
Nos gustaría poder realizar de nuevo esta actividad porque realmente nos ha hecho fuerte y también nos motivó a ser activos dentro de la iglesia.
Reporting from Barcelona, Spain, I'm Beverly Madrid and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Beverly, for that report at EBC Spain. We go to our EBC UK correspondent now, Bella Celestino, who has a report on a tour of the Natural History Museum in London. Let's play her report.
Hello everyone! I'm Equivalency Celestino. And I am Erica Celestino. And we are going for an adventure. So guess what? We're in front of the Natural History Museum. Let's go and explore. Let's go!
The Natural History Museum is dedicated to animals, natural phenomena, and the like. In fact, it is home to around 80 million specimens classified in 5 main categories: botany, mineralogy, paleontology, entomology, and zoology. This museum is famous for its dinosaurs exhibitions. Here resides part of the skeleton of the first Tyrannosaurus rex ever discovered, one of the most enormous carnivores known in the history. Dippy the Diplodocus is also a highlight of this museum. It arrived from the USA and it was first revealed in 1905. It was the first full skeleton of a sauropod dinosaur ever displayed anywhere in the world. It was also inspiration to Disney's One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing. And yes, Dippy is a dinosaur. In fact, it is on a UK natural history tour, but due to current circumstances, the exhibition has been suspended. The Natural History Museum is also a center of research that specializes in taxonomy, identification, and conservation. In addition, the majority of the collections have both historical and scientific value given the age of the institution. And some specimens were collected by Charles Darwin, a British naturalist and biologist. But that's not it. The museum is full of surprises. Visitors can experience a simulation of the 1995 Kobe, Japan earthquake in the Earthquake Simulator. Isn't that cool? You can also learn a lot about volcanoes, mammals, and so much more.
There was so much to see and learn. I could have stayed here the whole day. Exactly, and I've learned a lot too. So we hope that you had fun as much as we did. From London, United Kingdom, I'm Arabelle Celestino. And I am Erica Celestino, BBC UK Bureau Correspondent. And we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Arabelle, for that report. Now we go to EBC Belgium correspondent, Maria Dowson, who reports on the Iglesia de Cristo holding an online acoustic night in the countries of Belgium, France, Monaco, and Switzerland. Let's watch her report.
Due to the pandemic, reunions and different types of gatherings, whether private or public, have been very difficult to organize. Thus, many people take great use of various video conferencing applications to organize reunions and gatherings with friends and families. A great example of this was an event called Acoustic Night, organized by the members of the Iglesia de Cristo or Church of Christ in the countries France, Monaco, Switzerland, and Belgium. The goal of the event was to showcase the talents of many participants in singing. Maricha Miko and Shirley Paras, participants in the Acoustic Night, expressed their excitement and gratefulness in being part of such an event.
I feel really happy and blessed to be able to participate in this activity that we had today, the Acoustic Night, because not only was I able to unite with the church administration through the activities that they continue to launch, but it was also really heartwarming to once again see the brethren throughout the district of Western Europe.
Well, actually, I was not really prepared to sing for the activity. I'm not really a singer, but when some of the officers approached me and encouraged me to participate, I just said, okay, I'll just try, and it's also for God naman po, so let's just do it and then make other people happy in singing a song that could inspire people po.
Not only the adults, but also the youths were able to take part in the acoustic nights. Alex Aguilar told us what truly inspired him to perform in this event.
Mijn inspiratie om op te treden is om op te treden voor onze almachtige God en samen met zijn met activiteiten van onze district.
Through this event, not only did the participants want to entertain their audience, but they also wanted to inspire them by singing a meaningful song.
So I chose a song called I Will Always Choose You. I chose this song not only because I love the melody of the song, but I love the message of the song. It basically reminds us that in our lives, we encounter temptations, we go through trials and problems in our lives, we go through hardships. But despite all these, we should never lose hope. We should never give up on our membership inside the Church of Christ. We should always choose our Lord God.
I've decided to sing the Iglesia ni Cristo song Guide My Heart because it gives a very inspiring message to everyone, especially now that we're going through very difficult times through a pandemic.
Maar dat liedje gekozen houden in de jeugd omdat we God altijd moeten herinneren in ons dagelijks leven. Even if the world seems to go against me, I'll remember you.
Irene Manzano told us why these types of events are very important to her.
Activities such as this are also important because it keeps us connected to each other, to the people that we love who are far away from us, to our friends, and to those whom we know that we cannot actually physically meet because of the current situation.
The Iglesia ni Cristo continues to show various ways to make good use of video conferencing by organizing online events as leisure to strengthen the bonds among friends and families. Reporting from Dundee, Belgium, I'm Maria Dawson for Eagle News International, and we live in interesting times.
We go to EBC Dortmund, Germany now, where Irene Juliet Arzadon reports on a DIY donut wall. Let's watch the report.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all safe and fine. Today we are doing some crafting while we are at home. Something easy to do, and you can also use it for many occasions. So here are the things that we need for our DIY donut wall. A picture frame or small wooden plate, glue, better a hot glue gun, mini doilies or cake papers, a pen, a ruler, small wooden sticks or roots, and it's up to you. You can use wooden crafting materials like alphabets or numbers for the decoration. If you use a picture frame, remove the glass first and draw marks on the back wall where you will glue the roots later on. Also use the doilies paper to check the distance of the donuts, and if you want, you can use colors to easily see the marks. Now turn on the hot glue gun and take a stick and attach it carefully to the marked place. Beware children, please don't do it alone. Let it dry briefly. Almost done. Get your doily papers and cut out a little holes in the middle and put it on the roots. Finally, take your frame and attach it back to the back wall. The best comes at last. Decorate your DIY donut wall according to your taste or occasion. Instead of a picture frame, you can also use a wooden plate. Wouldn't it be awesome to put your own homemade donuts at your donut wall? I hope you enjoyed our DIY home edition crafting. I am Irene Judith Arsaga for EBC Bureau Germany, and we live in interesting times.
In EBC Sports Updates, Lionel Messi's fans demonstrate after he requests to leave FC Barcelona. Lionel Messi's fans demonstrated outside the Camp Nou football stadium after he requested to leave Barcelona. Messi is Barcelona's record scorer and helped the club amass 4 Champions League titles, 10 La Liga titles, and 6 Copa del Rey trophies. Barcelona's latest season, however, was not only devoid of trophies for the first time since 2008, it was also defined by chaos and ended in humiliation with an 8-2 Champions League quarter-final defeat by eventual champions Bayern Munich. The 33-year-old Messi, a 6-time Ballon d'Or winner, has not asked for a transfer so he can put his feet up for the final years of his career. This is considered a move aimed at adding to his successes, and in one competition in particular, the Champions League. We end today's show with our view from a window. We go to Bergen, which is the second largest city in Norway. It is a place of both economic and cultural significance. Bergen is known in Norway as the city of 7 mountains. Here you can see the beauty of nature at its finest. These medieval buildings on the Bergen Wharf are a popular tourist destination, and the wharf today houses museums, shops, restaurants, and cafes. This video was courtesy of Noel Castillo Arnio of EBC Norway. Thank you so much for this wonderful view, and we hope you stay safe and keep positive. That ends today's show, but we will continue to bring you more stories and news next week from the United Kingdom and Europe. I'm Giancarlo Matera, and we live interesting times.